Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. Okay, so we are back, Strider and I still here, and you are listening to Zumba. No, wait, we're not in Zumba class. What is this? My TEDx talk? Nope, not my TEDx talk either. Help me out.
I'm starting to wonder if I'm in the right place. This is Tantra. This is Tantra, love, sex, and intimacy.
No, that's the other podcast. No.
Okay, so between the two of us, we'll figure this out. No, this is Men, Sex, and Tantra. Tanja.
Yes. Thank you.
Your podcast.
So much.
You invited me to come speak on.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay,
I'm happy to be here. By the way, I'm excited to have this conversation.
If we can get it together, it's going to be great. Awesome. All right. So yes, it is true that I do have my fingers in lots of things. And maybe that's best for the next thing we're going to talk about. That's probably, I'm going to save my fingers in things for our next episode.
All right.
On this episode.
Can't wait.
I know, right? What is going on with these people? All right. So on this episode of Men, Sex, and Tantra, and by the way, Strider was saying how much he liked my graphic that I created for this show. I hope
it's inspired.
It's inspired. We are going to be talking about something that a lot of men I see. Well, first of all, I see it in social media all the time. And I do get a lot of men's questions and calls about this topic. The topic being how, as a self-identified good man, that would be you guys, not me, can you approach women, be around women, flirt with women? Like, how do you move about in today's world when the whole Me Too, at the height of the Me Too movement, things got really dicey. All of a sudden, it's like, don't approach the woman with headphones. Don't approach her. She's got a book. Don't even look at her. And you know why this came up for me? So I work out. I like to lift weights, and I'm back in the gym. And the other day, there was this woman wearing those spandex things with the seam up the butt, and she's pulling up her, and I am staring at her ass. Like, I don't mind a good ass. That's great. I'm staring at her ass. I'm looking there, staring at her ass. She's just like right there. And I was thinking, wow, how? And then I looked around at the men, and the men had to be looking, but they had to be looking in a way that didn't look like I was looking, staring at her ass, obviously.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, well, look, first of all, if I'd had her ass and I was wearing that, I would expect to be stared at. I would think it'd be insane because, like, how would you not?
Well, that's why she goes to the gym.
We're going to gym to work out, to look good, whatever. But then if you were like, I'm in a baggy sweatshirt, camo fatigues, and a baggy sweatshirt working out, because when I bend over, I don't actually want to flash my boobs or my butt. I'm there to work out, right? Maybe I've got the wrong strategy. I think I'm going to start going like mostly naked or something. I don't know. But so you're not supposed to look. You're not supposed to notice unless you're supposed to notice. Like, okay, what's the deal? How do good men move about in the world today without feeling scared that they're going to do something wrong or do something and have it be wrong?
I think we'll start off with the 5-second rule. And this is actually a thing in Hollywood.
No, this is not Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. You only have 5 seconds to do something before you have an emotion experience, though, that you don't do it.
No, this is a different 5 seconds. This is the 5-second look without being creepy rule.
Oh, I wish we
had.
And
so it's and I mean, I don't have direct experience with it. I've never worked in Hollywood, but I've heard this from people from that industry, is that if you're on a set and there is a sex scene going on, you can look. 5 seconds is about the limit.
One
and if you're looking for longer than 5 seconds, personally, I feel uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable at around 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
When I'm watching, because I don't want to be that creeper. Yet I understand every hormone in my body is saying, look.
Right.
So 5 seconds feels like enough time to really get a flavor for what's happening, and then
Move
be a
on.
pro, get on with your job, and
I-
don't stare.
Yeah. I
So-
looked at your ass for more than 5 seconds, I swear. Because also I was thinking that would be uncomfortable. I had all sorts of thoughts going on. Wow, that's very good ass. Oh, she could do this workout, that'd make the top better. Oh my gosh, that seam up my butt, I would not be a fan of that. Like, so I had a lot of thoughts going on while I was just staring at her ass.
Well, and if you'd surveyed the men in the room, they might have gotten many other different thoughts
Yeah,
about what
probably.
was going through their minds.
Yeah.
But I guess it boils down to, and this is where it's super tricky because I can't read her mind.
Right.
I don't know what her expectations are. Is she going to the gym dressed like this with the expectations that no one is going to look at her?
Mm-hmm.
Or is she going with the expectation that she wants to draw as many eyes as possible?
Right.
And I can't access that. And there's nothing in her, well, maybe there's something in her body language that would tell me that, but I'm not that observant.
Okay. All right.
So in a case like that, I think the 5-second rule is a good rule of thumb. And anything beyond that, we're basically erring on the side of safety. Her safety, my safety, because the last thing I want to have happen when I'm in the gym is for her to turn toward me and said, "You're a creep, you're staring at me. Cut it out."
Right.
Or to go to management and say, "That guy over there
He's staring at me, making me
he's staring at me." Yeah.
He's making me uncomfortable is what we would say versus he's
Yes.
staring at me. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a phrase that we can do a whole podcast on that because there's this phrase that I tell my clients, which is growth happens outside the comfort zone, but that's not what we're talking about here today. That was just a little pitch for another day.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and absolutely. And that there's some exception I take to that too, because that's how a lot of sexual predators end up hurting people in the spiritual neo-tantra world is growth happens outside of that. So, okay, but we are staying topic to this particular topic. So, it's got, and I come back to women with this too, just so you know. And I mean, men on this show know that I adore men, and that's why I do a show about men, because it's like I think that most men get the raw end of the deal in society, especially today. There's a lot of confusion and things going on, so I'm not really all yelling about the patriarchy and things. I mean, I could, but why? But I also look back at women. So like, let's take this woman, for example. Yeah, we don't know her motivations, right? Like you said, we have zero idea what's happening. However, where I always want to know where the responsibility lies with women too. So my daughter, when she was, I think she was 11, very well endowed at 11, and she liked to wear tank tops. And I noticed if she walked in front of me, grown men were staring at her. Grown men. I'm like, I'd walk behind her and I go, 11, right? Like, yo. And I got it. She looked like she was 11, but she looked like she was really developed, right? So yeah, they weren't 5-second ruling that, and they should have been, because they're about to get mama bear's, fist in their face. But I told her, honey, you should wear what you're comfortable wearing, and you should also be aware of the fact that your body that looks like this has an effect or could have an effect on other people. Now, I didn't single out men. I said other people, right? And so you should wear what you're comfortable wearing while being aware of the impact, depending on the society and culture. Like if we were, going to Dubai, you wouldn't be wearing that. You'd be covered up, right? But being aware of what reactions are garnering around you. They're not your responsibility, but they are for you to be aware, right? So she made different,
Gotcha.
I said that to her, and I noticed she started to make a few different decisions depending on where she was. So is it my responsibility as a woman to know how I'm potentially affecting men at the gym? Is it the men's responsibility to use the 5-second rule? are we both culpable for, grace when somebody has a misunderstanding? Like some guy could just be spacing out. Like this woman could have assumed I was sexually objectifying her when I was actually thinking about how uncomfortable I would be with that scene up my butt. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
I'm autistic. I'm staring at her ass. I'm going through all of these things. And it probably was 10 to 20 seconds before I realized I was still staring at her ass and probably should have.
Yeah.
But most of it didn't have anything to do with sex.
Mhm.
But, so there were practicalities involved and like, oh my God, she must wear a thong to do that. And I couldn't stand the thong. Like I had all sorts of these things.
Well, and she may be a lot more comfortable with being stared at by you than she would have been by me.
Or I totally creeped her out because I was staring at her and a man staring at her wouldn't have done a thing for her.
Right. So I think this goes down to we can't read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And that man staring at her may have had no interest in her sexually, maybe a gay man who just
he liked her spandex.
who's thinking about the logistics of what she's wearing, or
right, exactly.
How does this physically? How do you pull this off physically, and how is that possibly comfortable?
Right. Yes.
So
exactly.
we really can't know what other people are thinking. So that puts the responsibility back on us.
On both classes, bend over us and staring us.
Both parties, of course. So there's a transaction happening there, right? It's a nonverbal transaction between an object of interest, a beautiful woman, and a seeker.
Her ass. I don't think the rest of her was that great, but her ass was good. So did I just say that? I did.
You just did, yeah. And it's filling my head with lovely pictures. So,
oh my God.
And you want me to stay on point here?
5-second rule. 5-second rule.
Right.
On topic.
Right. There is no doubt that there is responsibility on both parties.
Yeah.
And when it comes to safety, the safety of a vulnerable person, which in this case we will decide is the woman who is potentially being objectified or just being creeped upon, right? By being stared at. That's not what she came there for, we think. So we have to assume the motivations are the least sexual, don't we?
Okay, so we start there, like with our own thought process and intent. Because where we're moving into that I really like, and where we're going to go, is energetic ethics and responsibility.
All righty.
Because this, I think, gets to the deeper heart of this matter of safety. Because I like that you keep bringing up safety.
Sure. Because honestly, what's at the core of the Me Too backlash that took a lot of dangerous men off the streets? It's about safety.
Yeah.
And the law caught up with I mean, I can list them, but they're in the news, so I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And took predatory behavior out of this hidden world where you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And with a lot of courage, women came forward. And then that's where the hashtag came from. That happened to me too, and me too, and me too, and me too. Yeah. And then suddenly, before we realized I've heard numbers like 1 in 4, 1 in 3, 1 in 2.
Hashtag and me too right here. Yeah.
So that 2 could be a TWO.
Yeah.
In terms of women being,
I think it's 4 and 4. I personally don't know any woman. I don't know any woman that doesn't have an unsavory male happening. Whether that's being flashed, whether that's like, rape, any degrees of this.
Yeah.
I personally know,
or just guys trying to cop a feel on the subway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And multiple times. Most women I know, multiple ways, multiple times. I used to drive my car down the street and have men masturbating in their car beside me, like a regular, I don't know. I used to think, what the hell
Where
is
do you live?
right? Right. Well, where did I live? What was I doing? Was it the car? Like, what the heck is going on? This was like a several times a week occurrence.
Where do you go to pick your neighbors?
Right? Like, yeah. Anyway. So this, yeah, safety. And I don't know that a lot of men think necessarily about that. Even like, let's say men who have good intent, right? Men with good intent, a lot of them are scared now. A lot of them are like, I just like, I'm not looking anywhere, anything. I've got my visor on down because there's women wandering around the gym and whatever. And, I'm just not doing that. In fact, I'm that person that walks down the gym aisle and will look over and smile at somebody or whatever. Like, this is not happening. And it used to. I used to work out at hardcore bodybuilding gyms. Those are my favorite. Yeah. Scantily clad men because they're lifting or whatever. And it's like everybody was fine and whatever else. And whoa, it has changed drastically.
Well, and those places invariably have mirrors.
Right.
And there's a lot of preening going on in front of that mirror. Not necessarily of other people, but of yourself. Because you're looking for definition and
right. Yeah. So most of the time in those gyms, you don't have to worry about people looking at you. The men are looking at themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
They're not like worried about you unless you're lifting weight that's heavier than they are, in which case they're all checking you out. But yeah. Okay. I'm making a little light of this, not because the subject is light, but because I know that we psychologically, we learn in fun more than we learn other ways. And I know there are men who, like, I know because I'm getting the phone calls and stuff, men who are perplexed about what the right thing to do is. So I like the 5-second rule. So I think that gives people that. Thanks for telling me that. I'm going to have to count down now my 5-second rules, because I tend to be somebody who really looks at people as I'm analyzing lots of stuff, and they don't know what I'm doing. So 5-second rule. Okay. I'll set a timer on that. And what are other, like, I know that women still want to be approached. This is the problem, right? Women want men that know what they want. And so there's that whole, like, confusion. Men are supposed to go after what they want, but for God's sakes, read the signs.
Yeah.
And are they obtrusive? What are the signs? To know whether or not that woman actually wants to be approached, and whether she wants to be approached by you. Because that woman in the gym may want to be stared at, but probably not by that guy who's staring at her. She wants the guy over there to stare at her. How do we figure this all out?
I don't think we do. That scenario is way too complicated. But the thoughts that came up while you were talking for me has to do with intention. And so this is, if we're talking about what men can bring to the table.
Yeah.
Is my intention in speaking to this woman another notch on my bedpost? Or is it to have a conversation with someone who seems attractive in it and that I'm interested in getting to know?
Isn't that like, but we're just talking like, I don't know, semantics there, right? Because
maybe we are, but I'm just exploring this thought because I haven't got this all figured out myself. I think women can read when a man approaches them who's saying, "You're hot, I want to bang you," or at least that's what's in his head.
Yeah.
I want to see you naked. Okay. I want to see that dress on the floor next to my bed, that kind of thing. And that might be what she wants too, but I can't read her mind. So this is all about me. So I think one way that I can ensure both her safety and mine is to have my priorities straight and know that if I'm going to have a intimate relationship with this woman, it's very likely not going to happen in the next half hour or 3 hours or today or within the next week, right? It's unless that's my goal. I mean, if my goal is to be as a pickup artist to meet her and fuck her the same day, then all power to you. That's not me. That's not my skill set. That's not my interest. Good luck with that, dude. So what I try to teach when I work with guys is sort of a higher level understanding of your masculinity and your sexuality. That sex is not a goal of marriage, for example. It is a wonderful perk of marriage, but it's not the end goal of marriage, in my view.
Yeah.
And it's not the goal of relationship to me. For some men, it is. But this is a way that I keep myself out of trouble, and is to say, okay, I have an opportunity here to share my masculine gifts with this feminine being. And if that masculine gifts happens to be sexual, great. We'll eventually get to that. My number one gift and offering is my presence, is my male embodiment of these wonderful energies that are often labeled as dangerous and toxic. And the reason they're labeled as dangerous and toxic is because they've been misused. They've been misunderstood and misused.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know how to wrap this up really, but that's kind of the thought that I had as you were talking, is this, so much of this stems from my personal motivation. And now in staring or visually appreciating a woman's beautiful body, I've often thought about this. Personally, I've never been confronted about it, but I have a script ready.
Oh, what's
and
that?
My script is something along the lines of, I never wanted to make you feel uncomfortable. However, I appreciate beauty in all its forms. And I feel that you're a beautiful person. You have a beautiful body, and I'm showing my appreciation for that. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry to make you uncomfortable, but I could not look away.
Well, just remember when you put but in, don't use the word, because you're negating that.
And yeah.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
but. So
yeah, and
the but.
How many T's in that butt? Yeah.
All around account. Okay. I have a feeling about all this. So like if a man said that to me, and he said, I didn't want to make you uncomfortable, and that I believe in grace and graciousness, in the sense that somebody who's willing to at least have that conversation when I turn around and stare him down like, yo, what's up? That's great. I'm going to give him a pass, right? Even if it's like, yeah, you should have known better, could have known better. What are you doing? You held that stare for 20 seconds, right? So whatever. But I tend to want to give people grace in what's happening, because I'm a flawed being. I was just staring at that woman's ass for however long. But what I like to bring this around to is this idea of energetic ethics and responsibility. And you're saying the same thing, in the sense of, you motivate yourself. Like, what is your intent and purpose, right? There's nothing wrong with people appreciating somebody's body that's sexy, beautiful, interesting, right? It's natural.
I agree.
For us to do that. I mean, we have eyes. Their eyes are input information into our brain. We are sexual beings. We are driven by procreative ideas and geometry. This is normal, right?
And this woman is at the gym to
improve these assets of geometry. Yes, exactly. Or find a hot guy, or whatever it is that's happening there, right? And, far be it from me to tell you guys that you wouldn't find me sexier in my baggy sweats, pumping iron that very few men are pumping in the gym. So like, there are those guys too. Like, I'm not going to say, we're trying to say like, oh, only all men would be looking over there. A lot of men would be looking at something completely different. So, right, there's all of that. But energetic ethics and responsibility. I believe we are definitely responsible for the energy that we put out, right? And there is responsibility, especially if you're somebody who starts to master energy, like the guy, my students that are doing the neo tantra work or whatever, that can like change the energy in a room with taking a breath. You start to have to be responsible in a different way. So, I even go so far as to question, like, so let's say that woman, let's say I'm physically attracted to that woman, and let's say I'm going to now take that visual home and I'm going to fantasize about her, right? In my world, that's not cool, because I actually didn't get consent to use her in that way. That's energetic responsibility. If I believe that my energy connects to everything and we are all connected, then I have ethical responsibility when I'm using somebody, appreciating somebody, or manipulating the energy to my thing. So I always ask myself this question, like, if I'm looking at a man, anybody, if I'm looking at somebody, am I, and you said this earlier, am I appreciating? Am I sexualizing? Am I using? Like, there's a lot of stuff that's going into this moment. So that's why when you said, like, what's your intent? Like, what can you bring? We can only be accountable for ourselves. What are my ethical responsibilities around my energy management? Because if I'm pouring sex out to that person, whoever it is, like, I'm thinking, well, yeah, 10 of me, oh, what am I going to do? And I'm starting to undress them and do all this kind of stuff. I don't even want to use the word objectification. I want to just use the word using. I am now interchanging energy with that person without their consent. In my world, that's not cool. My ethical energy responsibility, that's not okay. I was spacing out on that one. What was I doing? Was assessing whether or not I could wear pants like that, or like, what was that doing? Like, my energy was still pointed towards her. I wasn't sexualizing her at that point. I wasn't like trying to engage her energy in any way. I was curiously in my logical brain going, that would not feel comfortable. All right.
So my question for you is that obligation that you have, or that energetic responsibility that you have, is that toward her or towards yourself?
Well, first of all, integrity is one of my highest values. And integrity means, to me, being integrated with all of the way that I feel, the way that I operate in the world, the way that I live. And so ethically, that's where the ethics come in. It would be about me. My ethics are, I haven't gotten any consent from this person. I don't know if that person's married, or I don't know anything about this person. And so energy interaction without consent is not cool for me.
So
that's my own personal.
Just to give an example now. So let's say I'm you in the gym. I see her. She turns me on. I have stayed within my 5 minute, 5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes.
5 second. Yeah, I wish. My 5 second rule.
Yeah.
And then I go home and I pleasure myself to the thought of this woman.
All right.
To you, that is a ethical violation of that's a being me being out of integrity with myself.
Yeah. And also impacting her. Because if we believe that all energy is connected, I am in contact with her via my thoughts, with my energy. So I've enrolled her in non-complicitly into something with myself.
So just to flesh out the hypothetical.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm going to go home and pleasure myself to the thought of this woman.
Right.
What are the ethical or the behavioral precursors to that happening on an ethical level? Is it me going up to her and saying,
yeah,
I find you extremely attractive. I just wanted to know that,
I need your consent.
I need your consent. I need your consent to go jerk off to the thought of us being together.
I have done this. I have approached a man that I thought was very attractive, and because I'm not like, this is not theoretical in my life, this is like practical. So I've gone over and said, hey, so wow, you're hot. I don't know what your relationship status is, and that's not really what I'm asking, but hear me out. So you turn me on. I would love to use the thought of you, right? When I'm at home with myself. And the guy looked at me and he goes, let me get this right. You're asking consent to think about me? And I'm like, I am. And he's like, have a party. And he just smiled all the way out the door too. Okay.
Well, you might have made his day.
Yeah, possibly. So yeah, I know that for a lot of people, that's like, wow, Tanya, that's like way too far. But then again, energy mastery comes along with other responsibilities and ethics as well. But I still think what you're saying and what I'm saying are similar, which is don't make people uncomfortable, right? Because you're unconscious. It's time to grow the consciousness.
Yeah.
But also, I want you men to know that normal and natural, yes, it's confusing because you're built to look and we're built to want you to look, and we're looking and everybody's looking. But how do you do that responsibly and ethically has to do with where you are in your life. You've given the really concrete, lovely, easy, simple to do 5-second rule, right? I'm saying, what if you step that up and asked yourself, how much engaging are you doing with people without their consent energetically?
Yeah, you took it to a next level, is the energetical or the energetic ethics of it. And that's a interesting topic to chew on.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on the energetics, that all of our relationships are energetic. And that lack of integrity comes around eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't picture myself ever actually doing, although what the heck? I mean,
right?
I could end up making her day and said, listen, just so I think you look great. You obviously work hard on your keeping your body in shape. You eat right. You're doing so many things right. I want to honor that. And
I love that. I want to honor that.
I want to
next time.
I want to honor that by just telling you that.
Yeah.
And
would you mind if?
Yeah, because you're asking for consent, then you really should put it, make it a concrete ask.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And because I was thinking going halfway, which is saying, I think I'm going to be thinking about you after this encounter.
You gotta, like, if you're gonna, you gotta kind of put it out there and take the hits, right?
Permission to pleasure myself to the thought of you.
Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine? Like, so, because people talk about being authentic and honest and open communication, they don't really mean that, so I like to test these theories out. And I recently, there's somebody I'm totally into, and not just sexually, but totally into. And so my conversation was like, hey, so, I find myself like thinking about you, like during the day. I find myself, pondering, like, even weaving scenarios of not just sex, but like other things, and I know that, like, this is not going anywhere. I'm not asking for it to go anywhere, not even talking about it going anywhere. It's like, but I'm just letting you know that's what I'd like to do. And is that cool with you? New level of ethic, responsibility, and energy management. What would the world be like?
Yeah. Well, I had the thought that if I were to go and, for a hit happy hour on a random Friday, with the idea that I would use that script on 10 women, what response would I get? It could be so friggin' foreign to a woman to hear that she might suddenly say, wait a minute, don't walk away. Get back over here.
Yeah,
let's talk.
You have zero idea unless you try it. Or you could be offended, but like, you're literally asking consent
for a thought.
Yeah.
And we think,
an energetic connection. Right. It's not
German, die Gedanken sind frei, right? The German, the thoughts are free.
Yeah.
And however, by taking it to that next level and saying, you know, we have an energetic connection, no matter how tenuous or how loose
Yeah.
it is. And I want to, protect that. And
Yeah.
this is how I propose to do it.
Yeah.
That you're smoking hot. You may be way out of my league, whatever. And when I leave here, I'm still going to be thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you, I want to get your consent for that.
Right.
And that is so out of the norm,
Mm-hmm.
so off script
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know. I can't put myself into women's shoes, but how would you think that would land with you?
Well, first of all, if a man had that level of energetic consciousness, ethics, and responsibility, fuck yeah, he's not leaving the room.
That's right.
But also, let's just say that if the intent was clear, because you could say that without like giving a person a massage means massage doesn't mean foreplay. If he actually came to me with that level of consciousness and it wasn't a game, it wasn't a line, it wasn't a whatever, like his plan was to leave and there was nothing, that's awesome. And I've had that happen. And it was a little bit of a different way, right? But it was pretty close to that. And I think most women might take a beat and go, what was that? Thinking that it was a line, right? Thinking that you were trying to be clever or smooth or whatever. But if you actually literally didn't use that as a line and you waited for that moment, no, I'm asking consent. I'm leaving. And if it's no, it's no. Because to me, if somebody says no, and I mean it, I'm asking consent, and they say no, yes, I don't have to think about them. I'm not going to energetically connect with them. The same way if I see somebody across the room and I realize I keep looking at them, I am energetically connecting with them right then. I got to go over and literally say that. I will literally walk up and say, look, I keep tagging into you, energetically. I just want for you to find out if that's okay. Meaning, is that bothering you? Because I cannot do that. And it doesn't mean we need to engage. I'm not asking that. So what is each clear step? It's a fascinating journey to take. Men have been always very interesting in how they respond to that. Most of them don't believe that I'm not trying to put a line on them. So I would imagine that women would feel the same way, but a woman who was energetically connected or thinking about that consciousness that you just did, wow, how cool. I did have a man walk up and say one day in the grocery store, I just wanted to tell you how attractive I find you. And I'm like, thank you. And he just walked off. Like he literally value dropped, took off. And I was like, holy crap. How cool is that?
So what he's done is he's put something really positive back into the karmic soup that we all live in.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty cool thing to do.
So he was brave because he just out of the blue dropped that. And that takes some bravery in today's day and age when I could have been an asshole and said, so if women are listening to this, ladies, if you want that man to be brave, you want that man to step up asking for what he wants and stuff, we also have to like take a beat and ask ourselves, if they're not crossing a boundary, they're not crossing a line, they're not doing that, can you just receive without being in somebody's face? Even if you're not attracted to them, it doesn't matter. Like somebody giving you a compliment, can you just say thank you?
Yeah.
Don't be creepers, guys, right? So we're not going to be creepers, the men. We're going to wrap this up in a little bow because you and I, we go long. Just saying, no innuendos there. I do want to tell you how I want, because you guys can't see this, I want to tell you how lit up Strider was while he was weaving that scenario of asking for consent in the bar. I want to, like, his entire persona lit up. It was the biggest smile I've seen on his face yet. I could see him just energetically and everything else just light up at the prospect of being able to, or asking some woman what this might look like to say that. And so I think that's something you should probably go experiment with.
Well, thank you. And I think the thought that was in my mind as I was talking that through, I guess I was feeling empathy with her because she's she's been fielding all these clumsy
Right. Yeah.
overtures and fending off creepers energetically. And because I know, because of the women in my life, I know how they respond when they hear something that truly bowls them over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how I respond to that.
Yeah.
It's that relaxation that when the guard goes down, and it's that softening that is so intoxicating to the masculine.
Yeah.
That I just want to wrap it up and protect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that does truly light me up, that idea. And I don't know, maybe I'll make a plan. But I think there's also something beautiful in that, is that we are, it's almost like feeding the bank. Like the Me Too has revealed that there's this energetic imbalance, and we have a chance. This is, I guess it's karmic, whatever you want to put it, however you want to put this. It's an opportunity to feed back into the karma bank.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the things that I touched on when that affected me somatically, as I was talking about that you observed, and that your listeners might have heard in my voice but didn't see.
Yeah.
It's also, I'm at a standing desk now, so I can move around a little bit more. So it's that has changed.
No, it was you were just freaking to wad it up. It was pretty interesting to observe.
Yeah.
And
Well, you have that effect on me, Tanya.
Oh, well, I'm gonna blush now, which is true. I do blush.
She's blushing.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so awkward. At my age, blushing at compliments is kind of silly, but I do that. And I got to live with that. So that's truth. I know. So, and this might lead you with the question, gentlemen. Does Tanya give consent at this moment?
to what I just said?
I'm just gonna leave that out. I'm gonna leave that out in the ethos. Do with that what you will, because I didn't say yes or no. But I know what's gonna happen when I get those messages now. So I think this is a great conversation of just awareness. So 5-second rule, if you want to up your game, start thinking about your energetic ethics and responsibility. We're going to come back with probably one of the show's maybe most controversial, could be a podcast that we have. It's a topic that you haven't heard about yet on the show, and we'll see how we roll with this, because I think we might have some differing opinions, but let's see what happens. That's always fun. So we'll be back at the next episode, and we are out.